I'm Stephen Monteith, and I'm here to recommend some movies and TV shows. If you've been following along with my podcast, then you know in my most recent episodes I got very excited over some news that came out last week. That's that Zack Snyder's Justice League is going to air on HBO Max in 2021. And there's a lot of excitement, I think is the appropriate word for this, of all kinds of excitement. There's a lot of excitement going around about this movie. But we've got a long time until we actually get to see it, like I said. It's definitely easier when the finish line's in sight, though. But I figured for today I'd do a special edition of this recommend. I'd recommend movies and TV shows that feature the stars of Justice League. Now, first of all, a lot of these recommendations are going to be like the Justice League itself. It's going to be some choices that maybe people have seen before already, but it gets a reputation for being, kind of bad, or, for one reason or another, something that people don't really take seriously. I'm used to making recommendations like that, though, because, well, that's kind of what I do here. I have a different perspective on these types of shows and movies and whatnot, and, just like past movie recommendations or even like the Monty Awards, I like to shine a light on things that people, kind of treat unfairly, or don't really give, it the best chance that it deserves. So that's going to be, you're going to notice that with some of the recommendations I make today. First of all, let's talk about Ray Fisher. He hasn't done very much in film and television. He's more of a stage actor. Aside from his role as Cyborg in the Justice League, the only thing of his I could really find is True Detective. It's an anthology show on HBO, and he has a minor role in the third season as the son of the main character, who's played by Mahershala Ali. I'm not sure. I probably didn't say that very well, but he is also pretty well known for a comic book role. He played Cottonmouth in Marvel's Netflix Luke Cage, and he plays the main character in True Detective. Like I said, he plays a man who's going over a case. It takes place in 3 different time periods of this man's life. Starts in 1980, and there's scenes also from 1990, and there are scenes also from 2015. And it's a case that keeps coming back to him over the course of his life. And Ray Fisher plays his son, like I said, his grown-up son in 2015. It's a really interesting storytelling convention. It's becoming more popular lately to tell a story that takes place in multiple time periods. Christopher Nolan, of course, has used it plenty of times, and so has Quentin Tarantino. Usually, when a TV show does something like that, the show will still be set in present day, but you'll have flashbacks to a time before or something like that. But this show, this season of True Detective, it's each of those 3 time periods is the setting for it. It's really fascinating. It, like I say, it's on HBO, and there is it is for mature audiences, mostly just because of the language. There's nothing too explicit as far as sex or even violence goes, but there is plenty of language, so keep that in mind if you're gonna check it out. The next hero in the Justice League is Ezra Miller as the Flash. Now, what I'm going to recommend for him is the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them franchise. He plays a character in there. He's becoming more prominent as the movie franchise goes on. His role in the first movie, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, wasn't that big, at least not that we're aware. But in the next movie, Crimes of Grindelwald, he becomes much more important to the story, and you can tell that. I don't want to give anything away, but you can tell that it's supposed to become even more so in the next movie. Yeah, we're not even sure that we're going to get a next movie for it now, but I think that, and I said this in the 2020 Monty Awards, I think that that's unfair. I think that the Fantastic Beasts franchise was heading in a good direction, and it's something that deserves a chance to keep going on. Like I said, it's in a similar situation to Zack Snyder's Justice League, where I think a lot of fans would support it if it were given a chance. It's a tricky situation in that case. I definitely think you should check out the first 2 movies and give them an honest chance. We can talk more about that in a future podcast episode, though. All right, the next hero is Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Now, Aquaman has had his own solo movie. Some would say it's the most successful solo movie in the DCEU because it passed that magical $1 billion mark. But Jason Momoa has actually had a pretty long career already. Of course, he was in Game of Thrones as Khal Drogo. It's a pretty popular character on that show, and he was also in the Stargate Atlantis and various other things over the years. But what I want to highlight is Conan the Barbarian. He played this role in a reboot of the Conan movie franchise in 2011, and it really didn't do so well. It kind of bombed, actually, as they say, but I don't think it deserved to. I think this is a movie that should have done well. It should have done better. At least, I mean, it's a really entertaining movie. It's sword and sorcery. It's got Stephen Lang as the villain. It's got it probably suffers most from the fact that it's not Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, he played the role back in the 80s, and everybody everybody loves Arnold. Nobody likes it when his movies are rebooted or revived or anything like that. It's like they always want an Arnold to stay stuck in the 80s and the 90s, and everything about him to stay stuck in the 80s and the 90s. And it's like nothing after that, ever has any kind of success. But I think Jason Momoa did a great job as Conan, and I think that the movie is one that you should check out, you should watch. This one's definitely rated R. This one definitely has a lot of violence and nudity and swearing, but it's a fun sword and sorcery movie. If you're into that genre, and if that sort of thing doesn't bother you, then definitely check it out. It's worth seeing. Okay, now let's talk about Gal Gadot. She was relatively unknown before becoming Wonder Woman, who was also a breakout star of the DCEU. Her first solo movie did very well, and her current one, the follow-up to it, Wonder Woman 84, that's due out sometime this year. We'll see how well that goes. With the whole pandemic, it's really hard to tell. But before she became Wonder Woman, she had a recurring role in the Fast and Furious franchise. She started off in the fourth movie, Fast and Furious, and then she came back for Fast 5, and then she came back for Fast and Furious 6. And so far, those are the only 3 appearances that she's had in that franchise. This is one of those franchises where you either get it or you don't. I mean, obviously, a lot of people have figured out whether or not it's for them at this point. It's gone through kind of a weird evolution, but I think it's finally reached its. I think it's finally decided what it wants to be. Gal Gadot came in when it was still transitioning from street racers to international locations and completely over-the-top, ridiculous stunts, and trying to one-up itself every single time. And you can really see that in 4, 5, and 6. You can see it going through that transition there. But like I say, if you like that kind of movie, and by now you probably know whether or not you do, those are the ones that she's in. So you can check those out, and you can see what she was like before she became Wonder Woman. Okay, now let's talk about Ben Affleck. There are so many movies of his that I could recommend for this, and it's not even always about whether or not the role is bad. I mean, Ben Affleck is, let's not kid ourselves, he's very talented. He's a talented writer and director, and certainly a talented actor. I mean, even when the movie is bad, he gives, a good performance. He never I don't think you could ever say he really phones anything in. And he's always aware of what type of movie he's in. It was kind of difficult trying to decide which of his movies I was going to recommend, but I've decided to recommend Daredevil. First of all, let me just say I'm recommending the director's cut, which, like Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it's a movie that you could say suffered from like studio interference. It came out, first of all, in 2003, at a time when superhero movies didn't even know what they wanted to be. I mean, DC's last superhero movie at that point was Batman and Robin, and Marvel was just coming out with a whole bunch of movies, like at various different studios, I should say. Fox had the X-Men movies, and Sony had the Spider-Man movies, and even in that same year, Hulk came out, Ang Lee's Hulk, and that was just bizarre. So superhero movies were still trying to find their formula, and I think Daredevil kind of got hit with a lot of that. Like, studios didn't know whether they wanted to take superhero movies seriously yet. You could say that Daredevil was sort of an experiment, especially considering that CGI and whatnot were special effects were going through their own sort of transition phase at this time. But like I say, if you can get your hands on the director's cut of Daredevil, you can see that there are a lot of character moments in this movie too. It's and like I say, Ben Affleck is a great actor and one who cares very much about comic books and the characters in them in general. In fact, he took the role as Daredevil because he thought that was the closest he would ever get to being able to play Batman. Yeah, it's ironic, right? But I think he does a better job in that role than he sometimes gets credit for. And it's just a good movie, I definitely think that it deserves a second look. And now let's talk about Henry Cavill, as of course he plays Superman in the DCEU, and he's had a number of different types of roles, a pretty varied filmography, you could say. I recently recommended the series The Witcher. You can see him on Netflix. But the role of his that I want to recommend today is as Napoleon Solo in 2015's The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Now, he plays this American thief who is recruited by the CIA to team up with a Russian super secret agent. It's set in the 60s. It's a spy thriller, and they're trying to get a woman out from East Germany. Now, Henry Cavill wasn't really known for a lot of different roles before he became Superman. Man of Steel came out in 2013, and like I say, he had some roles before then, but not a lot of starring roles. Man from U.N.C.L.E. came out in 2015, and it really showed off, I think, his comedic skills. Yeah, he's so funny in this movie, especially when Armie Hammer, who plays the Russian agent Ilya Kuryakin, they just have such great chemistry on screen. You know, just bouncing off each other and being sort of vitriolic co-workers. And Alicia Vikander plays Gabby, the woman that they're trying to help, and trying to get her to help them. So it's got a lot to offer to it. This movie does. There's great action scenes, first of all, and it's directed by Guy Ritchie, who I don't think I've seen a movie of his that I didn't like. You know, he directed Robert Downey Jr. in the Sherlock Holmes movies. You know, he's got a long history of his own. And The Man from U.N.C.L.E., it was hoped that this could have its own franchise, but it's another one of those movies that I think kind of fell through the cracks. You know, 2015 had a lot of spy movies in it, and I think this one just kind of went under everyone's radar. But I definitely think that it should not have gone. It should not have fallen by the wayside. I definitely think this one deserved to be made into a franchise, and I hope it does end up getting a sequel someday. That's gonna be it for this episode. Like I say, I'm really excited for Zack Snyder's Justice League. I love all these actors and the work that they've done, you know, and I hope to see more from each of them in the future. Later this week on my podcast, I'll be wrapping up my Star Wars rewrite. You know, I'll finally be able to upload the second half of that one. And I hope everybody's staying safe during this time. I know a lot of states are reopening now, and of course it's Memorial Day, so I hope everybody, you know, who has known somebody who was in the service who died, you know, I hope you're all having a good holiday and good memories of those whom you've lost. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you more later.